Now, what's bizarre in this world of left-wing censorship is that what is not censored, what is not banned, becomes mandatory. There's a clip that's resurfaced of the Senate candidate, the Democrat Senate nominee in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, who was dressed up in a bizarre rainbow cape and hat looking, well, pretty much as weird as he always does, but in a slightly different way. John Fetterman was interviewed last year by some LGBT LMNOP activist on whether or not he believes that LGBT education, grooming, should be mandatory in schools. Here's what he says.
Now, with the, especially education, which is what our focus here at Power Rainbows is, would you support the Department of Education making it mandatory in all schools for LGBTQ education?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that.
Would you make it? Would you be supportive of legislation that makes it mandatory for LGBTQ education in our schools for history, literature, science, and so on?
I'm for as many perspectives and letting everybody be included in, because we're all part of America and we all have history, and that should be a part of American history, because you are a part of America in these communities, you know,
So he's trying to avoid giving a direct answer to the question, but in trying to avoid it, he does give a direct answer. He's saying, I want everything to be included, everything including, apparently, LGBT education. I don't know what LGBT education is, by the way. What does he mean? Do you think LGBT education should be mandatory in schools? What, teaching them how to do this stuff? Teaching them what is LGBT education? Sounds like grooming to me. I know that word is being bandied about a lot, but if you're teaching someone the ins and outs, as it were, of LGBT, then isn't that grooming? Isn't that what the conservatives are accusing the libs of doing? The libs are basically admitting it right there. And of course, John Fetterman doesn't want every perspective included. He doesn't think the Bible should be taught in schools. The fundamental text of Western civilization. I promise you, John Fetterman doesn't think that should be taught in schools. But Genderqueer by Maya Kababi should be. LGBT pornography, like genderqueer, I guess that should be taught in schools. That should be mandatory. The Bible, that's got to be banned. Speaking of LGBT activism, by the way, the most delightful, hilarious clip of the weekend comes by way of the LGBT community and LGBT issues, which is Joe Biden apparently blaming Elton John for AIDS.
By the way, it's all his fault that we're spending $6 billion in taxpayer money this month to help fight HIV/AIDS.
You could see Elton John there. He's like, what is this man? Is he blaming me for AIDS? And then blaming me for spending taxpayer money on AIDS? And Biden finally finishes. And Elton John's looking so puzzled. And then Elton John goes, he has no idea what he's saying. I'll just smile. And he kind of gives a little smile and gives some applause. I assume what Joe Biden is trying to insinuate here is that Elton John lobbied for this government spending on AIDS. But the way it comes out is that's not how it sounds. It says, we got to blame this guy. This guy, this guy, come on, Jack. This guy, him and Corn Pop went down to a few too many bathhouses. Now we got to spend $1 gazillion of your money on AIDS. Come on, give a round of applause for Elton John. It's like, what? What the heck, man? That's as homophobic as it possibly gets. Nancy Pelosi was just booed at a music festival in New York City.
As Speaker of the House, I'm here to thank you for your dedication.
Nancy Pelosi. Why is everybody booing?
So this is the Global Citizen Festival in New York City. You would imagine that these people are overwhelmingly libs, and then there's Nancy Pelosi up there speaking, and she's getting booed. And it's funny, you hear that one guy in the back goes, why is everybody booing? I don't know. The clip that's gone viral actually doesn't give a ton of context into specifically what Nancy Pelosi is talking about. But here's why she might be being booed. Because everything that the Democrats have touched has turned to ash. The economy, foreign policy, education, immigration, and everything in the middle. It's all fallen apart. This is why the Democrats are underwater on every single public policy issue. This is why the Democrats are running way, way behind when you look at the polls for the midterm elections. So frankly, I'm not really surprised that Nancy Pelosi is getting booed in New York City. New Yorkers, especially the ones that are kind of, in the rich parts of town who go to all the fancy liberal soirees, they can be taken with liberal flights of fancy, but they don't like getting mugged. They don't like dirty streets. They don't like bums and criminals running around everywhere. They don't like when the economy's tanking. They don't like stupid foreign policy that's causing huge disruptions to the energy industry and to the stock market and to everything. They don't like bad government, okay? And so how are the Democrats going to win in this kind of an environment? The only thing they can do is threaten violence. This is why, to get back to the very top of the show, this is why Joe Biden is sicking his thugs, his jackbooted thugs, on ordinary, nice, polite, pro-life activists. This is why Joe Biden is hiring 87,000 IRS agents and giving some of them guns to go after you. This is why Joe Biden is letting his criminals off the hook, the BLM criminals and the Antifa criminals. He's letting them off the hook. He's encouraging them to terrorize you. And why he is throwing you in prison. It's why he's taking the Midwestern grandmothers who show up to the Capitol Rotunda and get a little excitable on January 6th. He's throwing them in solitary confinement. But he's letting the BLM thugs who kill people off the hook. Because the only way that an unpopular liberal agenda can maintain its political power is through coercion and through force and through the threat of violence. I'm so glad you liked that clip. Now, like, subscribe, ring, ding, dong, get the notifications. We'll see you next time.